Joining us now on First Edition, we've got the Finance Minister and campaign spokesman for the Coalition, Matthias Cormann. First of all, I want to ask you about Labor's think tank. It's the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald and the Canberra Times today. The Fairfax papers covering it. McKell Institute suggesting that home prices will slow under the increase in home prices will slow, but there won't be any crash under Labor's proposed negative gearing and capital gains tax changes.
Well, I don't think you can rely on Labor think tank giving themselves a pat on the back about their own policy. The truth is that Labor's ill-thought-out negative gearing policy, so-called, will drive down the value of established properties. It will push up the cost of rent, and it'll be bad for families across Australia trying to get ahead. We've got to remind ourselves, negative gearing is the opportunity for families to leverage the value of their home, to leverage the value and their existing income, to invest in income-producing or appreciating assets, whether that's a small business, commercial property, an existing residential property. And Labor wants to take that away from everyone, including, well, in particular, middle-income families who've been who've been using this opportunity to get ahead.
It might be a Labor-aligned think tank, which it is. There's no questioning that. But at least they've done the modelling. The government's making these claims about the effect on house prices with no modelling to justify it.
Well, there has been a lot of modelling into Labor's policy, and a number of economists have actually been coming out. I mean, Biz Shrapnel, I know that Labor has been criticising them, but Biz Shrapnel did modelling specifically for the purpose of feeding into Labor's policy consideration, except that Labor completely ignored it. And that showed that a policy like the one that Labor is now putting forward drives down the value of existing properties and pushes up the cost of rent. I mean, if you look at what the real estate...
But that was like the one, but it wasn't exactly Labor's policy, was it?
Nothing is exactly, but the point is it showed that it would drive down the value of established properties, and the Real Estate Institute of Australia shows that rents across Australia would go up by up to 10%. As a result of this policy, if it were implemented, and that is, it would put a large amount of families around Australia into rental stress, which is of course not what we need right now.
Now, you were critical of you and the Treasurer spoke about the Labor black hole this week, and said it was close to $70 billion earlier in the week. Now, Labor's come out with a very pragmatic response, saying that they're not going ahead with a school kids bonus or reinstating the previous pension assets test. You would welcome that as some fiscal responsibility there from Labor?
Labor is in complete chaos and confusion about the status of their past promises. I mean, Labor for the last 3 years has been campaigning very hard to say that they would restore the school kids bonus, that they would reverse our sensible changes to pension asset testing arrangements. I mean, as late as March this year, the opposition leader Bill Shorten said that he would fight us all the way to the election over our changes to pension asset test arrangements, and also in relation to the school kids bonus. So, I mean, what it shows is that Labor cannot be believed. Clearly, Labor was in complete chaos because not even their own front benchers like David Feeney or Andrew Lee knew that Labor had changed their mind. I mean, as late as last week, Jenny Macklin was still campaigning in Tasmania, pushing for the restoration of the school kids bonus. I mean, they were forced into this position. The truth is that Labor has a multi-billion-dollar budget black hole. They don't know what the size.
So you're saying that again now, but obviously it's been reduced quite dramatically with those two announcements yesterday. That's close to $10 billion in itself, let alone the $19 billion in foreign aid that they say is a fairy tale in terms of their commitment. They're saying it's an ambition, but not what they're going to commit to.
Well, what we've done is we have confronted Labor with the fiscal recklessness of their past promises and past statements, and you're right, they've backflipped on a number of them. They still have a massive multi-billion-dollar budget black hole, which still means that every single promise they're making in this campaign is not funded.
So what is that size? The size of the black hole now?
Well, given that Labor is flip-flopping all over the place on a whole range of past promises and statements, nobody knows the exact size. Bill Shorten doesn't know the precise size of his budget black hole. What we do know is that he has a massive multi-billion-dollar budget black hole, and that his promises in this campaign are unfunded. Unless he shows us, year by year over a 4-year period, exactly how his policies are going to impact on the budget bottom line, nobody can believe.
You say that the commitments are unfunded. Are there any commitments made by the government that are not yet funded within the pre-election fiscal outlook?
Well, obviously all of our funding decisions that we made in the context of the budget are guaranteed within the budget. So wherever we made commitments to increase expenditure, that is paid for by spending reductions in other parts of the budget. And we've made that very clear, and that is set out in the budget numbers and confirmed in the pre-election.
What about campaign announcements?
No, so if any campaign announcements from here on in to the election, beyond what we put into the budget, will be fully paid for and offset by identified spending reductions, and obviously we'll make these relevant announcements in good time.
So there are some already that have been announced that you're yet to account for?
We have paid for every spending commitment in the budget with spending reductions in other parts of the budget. Any commitments that over and above that we make in this campaign will be paid for by spending reductions that we identify. And let me make this point though, Labor is spending 20-1 compared to us in this campaign. 20-1. So Labor is out there making massive spending promises every day. We've actually been quite frugal in this campaign. As the Prime Minister said from the outset, this is not, from our point of view, a fistful of dollars campaign. We are being very cautious, and all of our spending commitments are paid for with savings.
Yeah, well, you said they're paid for with savings, but they're not yet all paid for, because if you've made commitments in the campaign, you've said that they'll be accounted for later in the campaign.
Well, the very small amount of additional commitments that we're making in this campaign, we have already identified the savings that we will be making in order to pay for.
So they've already been identified?
And these will be announced in the course of this campaign.
Okay, Minister, thanks for your time.
Always good to talk to you.